or David, and I didn't send out the straw poll mainly because we had the talk about David on several occasions, and so we can get to James at some point, but we're going to go towards David, things about David. And I want to talk a little bit about research. I want to talk about finding things, and we're going to have a little bit of fun with this here computer, if that can be done. I know sometimes when you say computer to somebody who doesn't live on one or don't do much, they cringe. They don't want to touch a button. They don't want to click here or click there. You don't have to raise your hand. And and now we got these things here. You can search something just like that, no matter where you are. Well, we set this up. I set this up last week because I came in. We talked about George Washington and his farewell address. And I told you that it was ghostwritten. That's one view of it. I did that on purpose. Because when you do further research, you find that there is other information to contradict the ghostwritten theory. Now I'm going to reveal my source in a minute for the one who says it was ghostwritten. Someone that you heard of for a long time. Someone you have a lot of trust in and you listen to sometimes almost every day if you had a chance to be around the radio. And so, Brother Rick, he was so caught up with that, he likes history, he decided to try to read that 32-page. Tell me what your experience was.
I was more in the dictionary than I was reading the text. I mean, it's words that even a Philadelphia lawyer wouldn't know what they are now.
It's hard reading.
It really is hard reading. And then you have to go read it, get the definition, and go back, apply it, and then make sure that's the right application to it and everything. It's difficult.
It's a job.
Yeah.
It's a job. Did you look at the revised
Not
one?
yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. The person that I think you may have figured out who it was. Who was the person that you think it?
Paul Harvey.
Paul Harvey is correct.
Tell us the rest of the story.
The rest of the story. And so Paul Harvey is, for our generation, we all know that Paul Harvey was, I like listening to the way he crafted his stories. He'd done an excellent job. And you would think that he would be the end of the story. But he wasn't, because I found good solid evidence that George Washington, his speech, farewell address, it was his words. He had four contributors well, not contributors, four people that he talked to. The chief among those was Hamilton. And Hamilton helped him to compose, to get it together in the format that he was happy with. And so when we do research, sometimes, depending on the source, we might want to, even if it's a trusted source, we still might need to check to verify what we're reading and what we're hearing. Can you get a big amen from Karen, who teaches and deals with?
Amen.
And so students submitting work. So when he was asking, about, this thing is so hard to read. Well, what I did is I used this little tool right here. Now this little setup, this little page is something I put in there, that picture in that background. So when you go to Google, you can pick whatever you want. That's been there a long time. I just haven't had the gumption to change it. But right here on this Google search bar is AI mode. How many of you are familiar with AI, using it to search to find things? A little bit? Yeah. Okay. Have you ever done any research trying to find anything biblical?
Usually it's just Hollywood or something.
Okay.
Yeah, entertainment.
There's another format that you can use. It's called ChatGPT. And people use that to search things. In fact, I'll tell you how, before I get into the George Washington thing, back in that, this week, it was last week I think it was, my blackberries I got from Ron and Diane were running down, and they was going to go bad if I didn't use them up, but I've been eating them, and I love to eat them. And I thought, well, I don't want nothing to happen to these things. I want to use them. So I went on the internet and started doing searches on how to make blackberry jelly. Well, then you got to have this quantity. And so I thought, well, I don't have that much. So I went and took a measuring cup and measured out how many blackberries I had, which was 4 cups. And I typed into in the AI mode, I typed in, you just click on that. Let me get my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing here. So I typed it in and said, how to make blackberry jelly with just with 4 cups of fresh berries, and this is what it pitched out to me. Well, this is part of it. So I went back and I thought, wait a minute, I don't have pectin or anything else to thicken it up. And so I write in there again, how to make blackberry jelly, 4 cups without pectin. And it gave me this recipe. And so here's everything you need to do. And so I just followed the instructions. And fortunately, I have a little thermometer that I could stick in there. And you see down there on number 4, cook the jelly. Got it to that temperature, pulled it off, and then it turned out real good. But I used the ingredients, but I used the tool of AI to be able to try to help me to use some of the stuff there. And of course, Tanya wasn't around when I done it. I usually do these things when she's not around. I don't want to mess up her kitchen. And so anyway, I went back and after talking to Rick, and I thought, well, let's see if we can modernize George Washington's, and I've been playing with AI a little bit now. I am about as a novice as you can get dealing with that stuff. And so I typed it in, and here's what its answer was back to me. And it gave a modern version. Well, it doesn't give it word for word, and you'll see here, it doesn't give you word for word, but it does capture the highlights and summarizes, I guess you could say. And when you get down here to the bottom, and let's see here, there's one thing I didn't leave in, I think I cut it out. It said, let me know if you'd like to shorten this further or adapt it for classroom speech or social media format. Now, I took and copied it and put it in a Word, and then so I could post it here. The one thing that it said at the bottom, each time, it said, on whatever I searched, it said, AI may make mistakes. So it is a good tool to use, but it is a tool that we have to be wary of. I was talking yesterday, happened to be talking yesterday of, and your children or possibly your grandchildren, whatever, will possibly use AI. I was talking to Professor Martin yesterday. We just happened to be chatting, and we got talking about Sunday school, and he asked, and I told him what I was thinking about doing today, and we got to talking about it, and he was telling me his experience with AI. He said that the one thing that he's discovered is that students that try to use it sometimes for writing papers. Now, you and I, you don't have to write a paper. You're not going to, are you, Steve?
No, sir.
Okay. You're not going to do on how to install a HVAC unit or nothing like that. Okay. Is that it takes away if you depend on it solely, it's going to take away your ability to think. It's kind of like when calculators came along and you'd have these little calculators and they wouldn't let students bring them to class for geometry or other classes like that. Well, I remember in high school you couldn't bring a calculator. You had to do it all by hand. It wasn't until I got to college, until I did calculus. When I did calculus, they let us have one. TI-55, in case y'all remember that particular device. It was wonderful. But anyway, as we were discussing the impact of AI, he had put one of his papers, he said, I took one of my papers and put it in there that I had written 20 years ago to see what it would say about it. And it said it was all AI generated. Well, AI didn't exist 20 years ago. And so then we were also talking about doing resources, checking resources. He said, well, I put something in that I wanted to find out about, and a biblical thing, and he said, write me a 3-page essay on blah, 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 and cite 3 resources. And it wrote the paper and gave him 3 resources at the bottom. He said he checked them out, and one of the resources didn't exist at all. It had the name of the person that he was well aware of. I told Tanya, who was that? Who did you remember who it was?
I have to think about it.
I think it was Brueggemann.
Yes.
I think it was Brueggemann. Anyway, that's familiar to Karen. She knows who I'm talking about, Walter Brueggemann. And gave the page number and everything. And he goes looking, tried to find the source and couldn't find it. So, we can't always trust AI on some aspects. So, what I did is, and to give you an idea of what it looks like, I just type in, well, I'll use the Google search here, and if we're talking about David, if you had something to, now down here about help me to find offers about gyms and workout classes, I'm not looking at that one. Don't want nothing to do with that. If you had a question or something you wanted to learn or possibly get some ideas about David, what would come to your mind? Now, I have some examples put up here that I'm going to show you in just a minute that I did. But would you, to see it working, do you have something that you would be interested in knowing about David? This is a live lab we're in here, right?
The amount of his giving.
The amount of his giving. Okay, I'm going to write, what was the amount of the giving done by King David? Now, right.
If you'll notice up there, it even says the more detailed that you can make your question, the better a response you'll
Okay.
get.
Towards the temple. The building of the temple.
Yeah. Can you add that?
Yeah. What was the amount of the giving? I'm going to write toward the temple.
The more streamlined your question is, the more likely you'll get a specific answer.
That- Yeah, she's the one that's turned me on to this stuff, and I've been having fun with it a little bit. All right, let's see what it does. Okay. King David was able to build the temple himself because of his involvement in bloodshed and warfare. Was unable, I'm sorry. However, he made extensive preparations and amassed significant resources for its construction by his son Solomon. And so it says here, personal treasures, and it talks about building materials. Let's see, okay. And then down there at the bottom, AI responses may include mistakes. So that means when we're doing research, we possibly might need to use some other resources to check this out.
Aren't we afraid of this?
I was.
You're
Don't you
not
think it-
now?
Don't you think?
Well, no, I'm cautious. That's good, Sharon.
I'm sorry.
That's good. No, I am cautious. I am cautious of it. But there, when I was trying to get my blackberry jelly together, it was really good. I appreciate it.
My question to myself and all of us, how long will it be before that disclaimer is not there anymore? How long will it be before society is so comfortable with this that we will let falsehood, be either mistakes or intentional, sneak into what we trust?
It's good. That's a good question. I would say that the desire to not have to work for something
You got it.
would push that.
It's big.
And it's in,
Makes sense.
and so therefore you have scammers who don't want to work, but they'd rather scam, get paid for scamming. There's all kinds of things. The reason I'm bringing it up, the reason it's on my mind, is that as being responsible students of the Word, there are some tools we can use. And so it's going to come from your mouth to your friends and to your children, your grandchildren, the dangers, to be that voice that can help kindly, okay, I want to give a word of caution, and let's check these resources. So the question that Al asked is a very good question, and I think we have some good information here. It's just going to require other research to be sure. But then you can find some cursory things that you can do with it that is helpful. Now, did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did, except I think it goes a lot deeper than caution. I think it's a tool that will bring about a lot of destruction in this world.
I agree.
Well, the other part that I wanted to say in my thinking about it, about using technology and things of that nature and searching and doing things of that nature is lots of times people take the standpoint that I just want to be off the grid. And some of you still may have a Nokia or a flip phone or whatever. I don't think Nokias exist anymore because the systems won't handle it. But if you have something like this in your pocket that's got a chip in it, or you got this, you're not off the grid.
For television,
Yeah.
it hears you speak.
Where does the artificial intelligence come from?
That's
It has to come from a source.
Yep, somebody
So
wrote it.
somebody somewhere developed something.
Yep.
There's a source somewhere for all artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
They may twist it around and use it in a different way. It had to start somewhere.
Tanya's got more insight on that than I do because she's used it at school quite a bit, or occasionally.
What worries me more than anything else about it is the military aspect of it.
Yeah. What,
Go deeper with that.
Well, I think that, I think there's already intelligence out there enough. What we see from the military, the things that are exposed to us that we know about are 10 years behind what's actually there. China, who in my opinion is the most dangerous country there is so proficient at stealing our intelligence. I believe that they're also putting a lot of junk out there that goes toward AI. I think between China and Russia, and now I think India. India is a real threat coming.
Yeah.
They have nuclear capability. All these countries have nuclear capability.
Yeah.
And we may have squashed Iran for a few years, but we didn't stop anything.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence, you just better beware of it.
I think you you captured my, you gotta be careful, but we can use it. Did you have anything to contribute?
I don't claim to know a great deal. There's a few things that, if my understanding is correct, some of artificial intelligence is based on algorithms, meaning whatever has been used multiple times in the past is where they gain some of this from. So if you've ever had like a spell check on a computer, or the speech to text, where it assumes it knows what you're going to say and it tries to fill it in for you, and it can be aggravating sometimes because you think that's not what I want. And so you have to be diligent in that we can't just allow the technology that we have to think for us and do for us. And that is a concern when you think about people of another generation. Most everybody in this room, we understand the difference. We've lived in a time where that wasn't accessible, and so we now know. So whenever I'm trying to send something, maybe speech to text, but it does not do what I want, and I have to back it up and erase it, or I have to check the spelling, because we have lots of words that sound the same, but have different meanings and are spelled differently, and if you're not paying attention, you're going to run into that. And I was telling him, it's kind of like the mainstream media. We know that there's a lot of things that are being reported, and there may be facts in what they're saying, but there obviously is a bias. But if that's the narrative, that's the most popular narrative, then that's what's going to get pulled in on some of these things with artificial intelligence. So, like anything, you have to be diligent. We are living in a society, and I see it every day, and you probably have seen it if you have kids or grandkids. We want convenience at all costs. Convenience is ruling over everything. So if I have to wait for anything, if I have to apply myself harder than necessary, if we don't, so we are sacrificing a lot of integrity, we're sacrificing work ethic, we're sacrificing so much for convenience. And I think that that is one of the dangers of this. It's like anything else though, just like you mentioned a calculator. Calculators have a wonderful purpose, but they're only going to give you back a result based on what you've put into it. And you still have to be mindful that there's human error. So there's human error with this as well. I don't understand all of the background of it, but I do know that it can be a good tool, but you can't just rely on it as being the end of whatever you're searching for.
I think that's the key statement.
The greatest lie has a great amount of truth in it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why it's so easily received.
If you research David long enough, and I don't think it would take long to show up, if you leave it to AI to tell you about David, one of the first things that'll come up was his sin with Bathsheba.
I'm gonna hit that in just a second.
It's a bias. If there is a bias, it'll go towards the negative. That's just my opinion. But if you tell somebody a lie long enough, and nowadays it doesn't even take very long. Like Hitler said, you tell them a lie long enough, they'll believe it. And it still works 80 years later.
You know,
But
when
except kids and younger people are more, I'm gonna use an example, and I'm not talking badly about your son, but you told us years ago about a conversation you guys had at the kitchen table about the prevalence of disasters and earthquakes and floods and stuff, and your son said, well, it's always been like that. And you said, no, but the Bible says this, this, and this. And that was handily dismissed by him at that point. And then you said another source, and then finally you said, let's go to the computer. Well, he accepted that, if my remembrance of your story. He accepted the computer, but was willing to dismiss what the Bible said. That's the mindset of the younger generation.
The event of the occasion, the context of the conversation had to do with a particular religious voice that he was close to at the time, when Israel had bombed Syria for whatever reason. And that particular leader said, oh, it's on now, it's all over, blah, blah, blah. This is gonna happen, that's gonna happen, that's gonna happen. And he come home wound up tighter than Dick's hat band. And I said, well, calm down just a second, let's check the news. So we checked the news, see if anything's being said that would back up what that leader was said would happen. Nothing. I said, okay, let's go to the computer, let's see if there's any major sources that are saying that it's happened. Nothing. We couldn't find anybody reporting it. In fact, we had to dig to find out about it. I said, so, okay, so what does that make you think about the person who sounded the alarm that made me want to challenge? And that's where the computer came in on that. What was you gonna say?
What I was gonna say is all of us in this room remember when the internet first came out, then the most popular saying is this, I saw it on the internet, so it's gotta be true.
Yeah,
So, but that's what we heard for years and years and years,
yeah,
even though it was a lie.
true.
Is Siri a form of AI?
Pardon?
Is Siri a form of AI?
Yeah. Mhm.
So it's been around
Oh,
for
yeah.
a while.
And Siri's been listening for a while.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
We were at a get-together at a neighbor's house on some holiday, Memorial Day or 4th of July or something. And him and his sister got to scuffling around after this was over. They were putting stuff in the dishwasher, and they got to just goofing around. And she said, you better not mess with me, I got a knife. And Siri popped up. Nobody talked to Siri before this. And Siri popped up, and where did you get that knife? They're listening.
Yeah.
I'm like Curry with
Stays on longer
televisions. I
now
believe the
than it used to.
televisions are watching everything you're doing.
They are.
Smart
Where-
TV, ours is not. If you got a smart TV, but ours won't, it's
Yeah,
not
smart
gonna do
TV.
that.
Mine's a dumb TV.
The one thing that makes me think of when we talk about all these different aspects, and I think it's obvious to everyone in this room, but it's worth being reminded of, we are living in an age where discernment is more critical and valuable than I think it has ever been. And the Lord says He will give us discernment, but we have got to be diligent in that we are seeking that, and that you're not, I mean, even going back to the media again, we know there's multiple different networks, and they each have their own bias. And you gravitate towards the one that reinforces your own bias. And I've gotten to where I just want to turn them all off. I don't want to be uninformed, but it becomes so evident that they're only reporting what they want to report, the way they want to report it, and there is a slant to what they're saying. So if you do not exercise discernment or ask the Lord for discernment, I think that we are really putting ourselves in a bad position. And that's the problem I have with younger generations. I don't believe either they don't have enough life experience or they have lived in such an age where they don't see the need for discernment.
That's where we gotta teach them. We gotta
Exactly.
preach it, we gotta
Well,
bomb them upside the head with
And
it.
that's another lesson, is figuring out how to teach them, but sometimes you could tell.
well,
them-
if we're informed, and we are, excuse me, if we can equip ourselves with information to understand, I've avoided this stuff until just last week. I didn't want nothing to do with it, but earlier in the semester, I was drawn into an occasion where she was talking about where a student who had a problem being able to write and read was using a software that was Dragon. It's called Dragon Dictation. And so it helps the student to be able to speak, and so it puts it on the paper for him. And so the professor came to me back and forth, and we're trying to figure out how can this student use something that's helping him, but yet be able to prove that his work is not AI generated. And so that's what we dealt with. We had we come up with some protocols for them to follow to be able to keep him out of trouble, but yet to satisfy what the professor is needing when he submits his paper. Let's get back to this, and I'm going to connect with what it's been talked about, and all the comments have been great. We don't have enough time on this particular lesson, I can tell. You'll see here that when I asked the question, I put in, what was the timeline of David's life? And it gave up some good information. You can see here, once again, you're going to verify it by going back and looking this stuff up. You see these things right here. Give some good information. Okay. The reason I come to this one, I asked the question, what did David mean when he said, in sin my mother conceived me? Now the reason I said that, and there's three different things that it says, that it gives up. And the reason I asked that question is, how many of you have seen the series David on
House of David.
is it House of David? Have any of you seen that?
No.
Just
Okay.
us.
Nobody seen it? Well,
I'll leave it to
I'm aware
them.
of
just forget anything.
So what
No.
were you gonna say?
I'm going to get there. With that, I'm going to have to reveal some of the plot in order to.
We'll forget, go ahead.
You'll forget about it.
You're safe.
The joys of being old. Whenever we started watching it, it was depicting David as an outcast in the family. We know that when Samuel came by what we read in the scriptures, we know that David was tending the sheep. Well, the movie, the series puts him in a light of being an outcast. And at some point, at several points in the story, Jesse, his dad, is talking to him, and it's said in the context that he had an affair, Jesse had an affair, and that's how you were conceived. So it was looked down in the family as being, as why you were out there tending the sheep. And then that puts his mother in a particular light. So that's what the series is building. It builds from that. Now, I've enjoyed the series. It's like most anything I watch, we talk to the TV. Though that ain't right, no, you missed this, blah, 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 and the whole 9 yards. And so I think that might be Nick. I don't know if you're like I am, but you have to hit pause once in a while and get your little disclaimer put out there before you can continue on.
She fusses at me
For fussing to the TV.
It's mostly sports.
Oh, okay. Well, this brought up 3 points here, and when I asked that question, for me personally, there's better evidence out there that doesn't support the depiction on the series House of David. Now, once again, if you're looking for good, clean entertainment, it's a good series to watch.
They've taken creative license with some things.
Yes.
But they've not really done anything that's done a disservice to Scripture.
No.
They've just taken some creative license.
Yeah. So let's look at the 3 things that it mentions here. First of all, it says original sin, total depravity. Many interpret David's words as an acknowledgement of the inherent sinful nature of all humanity, passed down from Adam and Eve's transgression in the Garden of Eden. This view suggests humans are born with a predisposition to sin. David is essentially saying he was born into a world affected by sin, and therefore he himself possessed a sinful nature from his beginning. That, I kind of like that.
I'll go with that one.
Yeah. That's what I always thought it meant.
Yeah. Now, I will say this, when most of the times when you have things that are presented to you, the most common accepted idea is usually posted first. Not always, but I find it interesting that it posted this one first. That's just me.
Yeah.
The second one here, it says the sinfulness of his mother. Some interpretations focus on the idea that David's mother was a sinner. Therefore, because he was conceived by a sinner, he was conceived in sin at that sense. This does not necessarily imply that the act of conception itself was sinful or that David was conceived illegitimately. Some speculate that David's mother may have committed adultery, making David's birth a result of her sin. However, this is not supported by other biblical texts. Well, thank you very much for
Well,
that.
she can't commit adultery by herself.
No, she can't.
And this is what we're talking about. We have these dialogues to our television sometimes, so.
They're getting a smart TV so we can hear.
Well, that paragraph, combined with the suspicious nature of the human brain and the willingness to accept garbage by the human heart, even though it discredits, it introduces that idea.
Well, see, yes, it does.
Even though it mixes it in the end.
Well,
It introduces it to people that are apt to run with it like a brim on worms.
well,
That's the garbage.
well, that's the thing. Before I ever thought about looking at here, somebody had already had that in mind and made a series out of it.
You're doing a great job there.
I want you to know that. I'm getting you ready for somebody.
So anyway, yes. And so the series, I don't know how they got their resources for doing the House of David series. I don't know where they started from, but the idea was already out there. Okay? Thirdly, a figure of speech or hyperbole. Hyperbole, thank you. She helps me a lot. Another perspective sees David's statement as a poetic and intense expression of his deep sense of sinfulness and guilt in the face of God's holiness. After committing adultery with Bathsheba and arranging for Uriah's death, David was overwhelmed by the enormity of his actions. In this context, his words emphasize that his sin stemmed from deeply rooted propensity to do evil within him, says the Bible Hub. So it cites the Bible Hub. Maybe we can click on that and see what it says. He was acknowledging his total depravity before God, says, knowing Jesus. The part that's underlined is a source that it's citing. I would recommend you click on those sources if you use this to see where it takes you. for that. It's important to consider that Psalms 51 is a psalm of repentance, where David is confessing his sin and asking for God's mercy and forgiveness. His words in verse 5 likely reflect his profound brokenness and his awareness that his actions were manifestations of a deeper inherent sinful nature, says gotquestions.org. And if you've ever used gotquestions.org, if you haven't, I would recommend that you look at it. Let's get back here. Oops, my bad. Let me get a new screen. And this is a good place sometimes to go to do some search if you wanted to. It's just a cursory look. Once again, I'm advocating, yes, you can use AI. It's a tool to be used. That's up to you. For me, I was just doing Google searches. I wouldn't touch the button. Didn't want nothing to do with it. And so, but Google searches are still.
Yeah. It bleeds over.
Yes.
Everything bleeds over.
So don't think you're completely separated from it. I'm just trying to put it out there. We've gone on, we're winding down, and we need to put the brakes on this thing. I've enjoyed it. I hope you have. Hope it's been informative. And so that's my whole point behind any lesson, is for us to learn. Let's turn to yeah, you need to go? Okay, I understand.
I got some too.
Yep. Prayer requests. Let's get to the prayer requests.
We need to